are trying to bypass a full environmental impact statement by hiding a massive megawatt through a minor zoning variance. Protection.
That is the sound of an active economic battleground. Welcome to the Macro Cut. I'm Maeve and this is Miles.
That video was captured on a phone outside a closed planning board meeting in New York. And the voice on that megaphone belongs to local resident and environmental researcher, Sage Villanova.
Sage brought us that video because right now, a Silicon Valley infrastructure giant is trying to quietly pass blueprints for a massive AI factory on her lake. But as we found out when we looked into this region, this is not a community you can easily roll over. If you drive down along the shores of Cayuga Lake, just north of Ithaca, you'll see the physical skeleton of a bygone economic era, the old Cayuga Power Station in Lansing. For decades, it burned coal to keep the state's lights on. It was noisy, dirty, and it meant steady paychecks for the community. But in 2019, the smokestacks went silent.
Now, that's not to say that the entire region is completely devoid of manufacturing. They've got BorgWarner making auto parts, and Paul Trinity that manufactures heavy-duty industrial filters.
Our research also showed, right down the road from the power plant, the Cayuga salt mine still drops thousands of feet straight under the lake, standing as one of the last true pillars of heavy industry left in the area. But even for an institutional employer like that, stability is fragile.
Just a couple of years back, after a string of mild winters dropped the regional demand for road salt, Cargill pulled the plug on an entire third shift, laying off some of its workers.
Outside of those few remaining industrial strongholds, the broader landscape of stable, assembly line jobs has slowly vanished from upstate New York over the decades. Today, finding work that can actually cover the rising cost of living there is a constant battle. For a lot of residents, it feels like the options have shrunk down to trying to land a shift at the local Walmart.
So, when a high-tech infrastructure company named TeraWulf stepped in with that on-term lease on that old Lansing power plant, promising a massive futuristic rebirth, it sounded like a classic economic lifeline.
The residents weren't fooled.
To pull back the curtain on that illusion, we're bringing in two local voices who are living through it. First, as you heard in our opening, we have Sage, an environmental researcher who has been tracking every public town and planning board meeting.
And we'll also hear from a local worker whose family has spent decades down in the Cayuga salt mine, tracking how the regional job market has completely shifted under their feet. And as they told us, the community sees right through the corporate pitch. What do you say, Earle?
Look, nobody here is blind. We know a data center isn't going to bring back hundreds of factory jobs. We know it's mostly just servers. But when everything else has left town, people feel like they have to take whatever crumbs are dropped.
We've been told for the last few years that artificial intelligence is a clean, weightless technology that lives in the cloud. We talk about these LLMs or chatbots like it's magic.
But the reality? The cloud is made of concrete, steel, and a massive, terrifying amount of electricity. AI chips require an intense, constant stream of 24/7 power that can never fluctuate.
Think back to the 1849 California gold rush. The people who made the guaranteed money weren't the miners digging for gold. It was the merchants selling denim jeans and physical shovels. Today, tech giants like Google are desperate for the shovels of AI. And those shovels are massive data centers.
Which brings us back to Lansing. Why on earth do Silicon Valley tech companies want an old, shut-down coal plant on Cayuga Lake? It comes down to an industry trend called coal to compute.
Companies like TeraWulf aren't building brand new power plants from scratch. They are doing a form of industrial recycling. They take over retired fossil fuel plants because they inherit the existing, multi-million-dollar grid plumbing.
Exactly. In the energy world, waiting for a utility company to build brand new high-voltage transmission lines can take 5 to 10 years. By taking an old plant, the giant substations and heavy cables are already hooked directly into the state's main electrical grid. TeraWulf just reverses the flow. Instead of sending electricity out, they suck massive megawatts in.
And drawing from New York's grid means they get to claim they run on zero-carbon energy, because the regional grid is heavily supplied by Niagara Falls hydropower and regional nuclear plants.
But the real prize is the water. AI microchips run so hot they will literally melt without continuous cooling. By leasing the old coal plant, they get access to industrial pipes built to pull water directly from Cayuga Lake.
And that's exactly where the corporate messaging starts running into local resistance. Here is Sage breaking down what those technical specifications actually mean for the immediate ecosystem.
Actually sit in those planning meetings and read the fine print, you realize they aren't just asking to use an old building. They're talking about clearing forested hillsides, blasting bedrock, and utilizing thousands of gallons of our lake water a day for chip-cooling mists while the public grid absorbs the strain.
To the tech world, Lansing isn't a community of 3,800 people, with another 7,000 in the immediate surrounding communities. It's just a giant electrical socket and a radiator.
When these projects are proposed to local towns across America, the big selling point is always the same: jobs. And when a community is desperate for steady employment, you want to believe it.
Because right now, the alternatives for workers in these rural areas are brutal. A lot of people in the region have turned to gig work or driving for apps just to survive. But the data shows that it doesn't actually cover the bills once you factor in gas and wear and tear on a vehicle.
And then there's the hidden trap that tax preparers see every spring: the tax bill. A lot of these folks get a brutal wake-up call when they file their first return. They have no idea they are legally considered a sole proprietorship, meaning nobody withheld a single dime for taxes during the year.
Suddenly, they get hit with a 15.3% self-employment tax, right off the top for Social Security and Medicare, on top of regular income tax. For people who didn't have a lot of money to begin with, it drops them right into debt, this time with the IRS. It's a predatory cycle.
Exactly. It's a daily hustle just to stay underwater. Earle saw this exact transition play out within his own household.
Saw it after the layoffs at the mine. You do the gig work, you do the odd jobs, but what else are you supposed to do when the stable work is gone? And you know it's a trap.
So when a multi-million-dollar tech project comes along, it feels like a definitive answer. But as we heard on the ground, the local community isn't naive. They see right through the corporate spin. They know a data center isn't a bustling factory floor.
Right. They know the math of how a data center actually lives. It splits into two very different chapters. Chapter 1 is the construction boom. For the first year or two, you see local crews clearing land and running miles of heavy copper wiring. It's a fast injection of cash.
But then, Chapter 2 hits. The building is finished. The server racks are plugged in. The heavy gates lock shut. And the construction workers pack up and move to the next town.
Once a multi-million-dollar AI data center is fully running, it becomes what economists call a ghost industry. A facility that sucks up enough electricity to power a small city usually only requires 30 to 50 permanent, day-to-day jobs to keep it running.
And most of those aren't long-term manufacturing roles for local residents. They are low-wage security guard shifts, facility janitors, and a tiny handful of specialized engineers brought in from out of town. Here is Sage again, speaking directly to that economic reality she heard while at a local town hearing.
We've challenged the job numbers directly at the town board hearings. We had 20,000 signatures on a petition, as you can imagine. The corporate press releases paint this picture of a massive economic engine, but when you look at the tax abatements, it's a giant humming warehouse. We are giving away our infrastructure for a handful of security shifts.
And that's the exact same pattern we're starting to see play out with the big promises of the CHIPS factory. From the CHIPS and Science Act. Up near Syracuse, they were promised a massive manufacturing rebirth with the Micron chip megafactory in Clay. But timelines keep slipping, federal deadlines are shifting, and the promised family-sustaining jobs keep moving further down the road.
The tension unfolding right now on the shores of Cayuga Lake is a preview of the next decade of the global economy.
Communities are being asked to trade their local resources, their natural lake water, their forested hillsides, and the capacity of our local power grids, for the promise of an economic comeback.
But if local planning boards aren't careful, they are going to look up and realize they traded the heavy community-building factory jobs of the past for a landscape of empty parking lots, a higher electric bill, and a giant, buzzing warehouse full of machines that don't look back.
We need these data centers to move into the next age of AI, but we need to make sure the people who financially benefit from putting these up are the ones who foot the true cost of them.
Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Survival Guide. Don't forget to subscribe to the Macro Cut, and we'll see you next time.